Good day. Thank you for joining us again for another interesting topic. Transnational organized crime is no longer something that happens somewhere else. Today, Southern Africa, particularly South Africa, has become a strategic hub in global criminal networks involving drugs, money laundering, illicit financial flows, and arms trafficking. Criminal syndicates operating across continents are exploiting our ports, financial systems, borders, and governance weaknesses, often with devastating consequences for economic growth, political stability, and public safety. In this video, we examine how global drug routes are shifting towards Southern Africa, how South Africa has become a gateway for money laundering, who the international syndicates are, and why illicit financial flows are draining African economies. We will also look at what this means for society today and what the future could look like if these trends are allowed to continue unchecked. This video is intended for educational and analytical purposes only. It does not accuse any individual, organization, or country of criminal conduct. All information presented is based on open-source research, public reporting, and strategic crime analysis. Let us have a look at some case studies. In order to understand how deeply transnational organized crime has embedded itself in South Africa, it is important to look at real, recent exposure incidents. The following cases, from the past 3 to 5 years, illustrate how global syndicates operate locally, using South Africa as a transit hub, production base, and financial gateway. Case 1. Meth production. Mexican Syndicate Link, 2024-2025. In late 2024 and early 2025, South African authorities dismantled multiple large-scale methamphetamine laboratories in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Several of the suspects arrested were Mexican nationals, indicating direct cartel-linked expertise being imported into South Africa. These facilities were not small labs. They were industrial-scale operations, producing drugs for both local consumption and export markets, using advanced chemical processes. Case 2. Cocaine seizures linked to European networks, 2024. In mid-2024, hundreds of kilograms of cocaine valued at hundreds of millions of rand were seized in the Western Cape. Investigations revealed links to Eastern European crime networks using South Africa as a redistribution point for cocaine originating in Latin America and destined for Europe. These seizures reinforced South Africa's role as a key transshipment hub rather than merely a destination market. Case 3. Port infiltration, Durban and Cape Town, 2023-2025. South Africa's ports, particularly Durban and Cape Town, have repeatedly featured in drug, weapons, and contraband interceptions. Criminal syndicates exploit the sheer volume of cargo combined with insider corruption within logistics and customs environments. Containers are frequently flagged only after intelligence from foreign agencies, highlighting the transnational nature of these operations. Case 4. Money laundering through real estate and casinos, 2023-2024. Financial intelligence investigations over the past few years have exposed how criminal proceeds are laundered through South African real estate, casinos, and cash-intensive businesses. Syndicates use property purchases, inflated rentals, and gambling activity to clean money generated from drugs, fraud, and smuggling across the continent. Case 5. Nigerian-linked transnational fraud and drug networks. Law enforcement and Interpol-linked operations have confirmed the presence of Nigerian-origin transnational crime networks operating in South Africa. These groups are involved in drug trafficking, cyber-enabled fraud, money laundering, and identity-based financial crimes, often working in loose alliances with other international syndicates. Case 6. Rhino horn and wildlife trafficking networks. South Africa has also been exposed as a key source and transit country for wildlife trafficking, particularly rhino horn destined for Asian markets. Investigations revealed sophisticated syndicates involving legal professionals, logistics operators, and international buyers, illustrating how organized crime penetrates legitimate sectors. Case 7. Crypto and digital money abuse. More recently, authorities have raised concern over the growing use of cryptocurrency to move and conceal criminal proceeds. Digital assets allow syndicates to bypass traditional banking controls, making detection and asset recovery significantly more difficult. Case 8. Arms and drug routes via Mozambique. South Africa's proximity to Mozambique has also been exploited by transnational syndicates moving drugs, weapons, and contraband through regional corridors. Weak border controls and regional instability make Southern Africa an increasingly attractive operating environment for organized crime. Case 9. Law enforcement infiltration allegations. Public statements by senior officials have acknowledged the influence of organized crime within parts of law enforcement and the justice system. This institutional corruption enables syndicates to operate with reduced risk and limited accountability. Case 10. International cooperation exposures. Many of the most significant syndicate exposures in South Africa have come from intelligence shared by international partners. This underscores a critical reality. Transnational organized crime cannot be addressed in isolation. It requires sustained global cooperation. These cases demonstrate a clear pattern. South Africa is not merely affected by global organized crime, it has become strategically embedded within it. Understanding this reality is essential when considering long-term security, economic resilience, and governance stability. Over the past decade, global drug trafficking routes have shifted significantly towards Southern Africa. Cocaine produced in Latin America is increasingly routed through African ports before being shipped to Europe and Asia. South Africa, with its advanced port infrastructure and logistics networks, has become a key transit and redistribution point. At the same time, heroin trafficking routes from East Africa now move southward through the region, while methamphetamine production hubs, both local and regional, are expanding rapidly. These drugs do not merely pass through. A growing portion is consumed locally, driving addiction, violent crime, and gang activity across Southern Africa. Transnational crime cannot function without one critical element: the ability to move and clean money. South Africa's sophisticated banking system, property market, and large cash-based economy make it highly attractive for money laundering. Criminal proceeds are commonly laundered through the following: real estate purchases, casinos and gambling platforms, cash-heavy retail and hospitality businesses. Increasingly, cryptocurrency and digital payment systems. This allows illicit profits generated across Africa and beyond to be legitimized, often with limited detection. South Africa has become a convergence point for multiple international crime syndicates. Networks originating from Eastern Europe, the Balkans, West Africa, East Asia, South Asia, and Latin America operate either directly or through local proxies. These groups specialize in different criminal services: drugs, fraud, arms trafficking, cybercrime, but increasingly collaborate when it suits their interests. South Africa's geographic position, infrastructure, and regional influence make it a strategic base of operations rather than merely a transit country. Illicit financial flows represent one of the most damaging but least visible impacts of organized crime. Every year, billions of dollars leave African economies through criminal activity, corruption, tax evasion, and trade manipulation. This capital flight weakens governments' ability to provide services, undermines development, and entrenches inequality. In effect, organized crime functions as an economic parasite, extracting value from already vulnerable states and redirecting it into global criminal systems. Ports are critical nodes in the transnational crime ecosystem. Major Southern African ports, such as Durban, Cape Town, and Maputo, handle enormous volumes of cargo every day. Criminal syndicates exploit this scale to conceal drugs, weapons, and contraband among legitimate trade. Corruption within customs, logistics, and freight forwarding environments further enables these operations, turning ports into high-speed corridors for organized crime. The impact of transnational organized crime extends far beyond law enforcement. Economically, it distorts markets, deters investment, and increases the cost of doing business. Socially, it fuels violence, addiction, and community destabilization. Politically, organized crime undermines governance by corrupting institutions, influencing policy outcomes, and weakening state authority. Over time, this creates an environment where criminal interests compete directly with democratic systems. Now let us have a look at some strategic risk mitigation measures to counter this threat. Effectively countering transnational organized crime requires a strategic, long-term approach. Key measures include strengthening financial intelligence and asset forfeiture, enhancing port and border security through technology and intelligence-led operations, improving regional and international cooperation, targeting enablers such as corrupt officials and professional facilitators, disrupting money flows rather than focusing only on arrests at street level. Without this strategic focus, enforcement efforts remain reactive and fragmented. If current trends continue unchecked over the next 20 to 30 years, Southern Africa risks becoming a deeply entrenched hub in the global organized crime economy. This would mean weakened states, permanently compromised institutions, rising inequality, and normalized criminal governance structures. At that point, reversing the damage would require extraordinary political, economic, and social intervention. Transnational organized crime is not just a criminal issue, it is a strategic threat to economic stability, governance, and societal cohesion. Understanding how global networks operate within Southern Africa is essential if meaningful disruption is to occur. The future trajectory is not inevitable, but the cost of inaction will be profound in the long run. This video is for educational, analytical, and public safety purposes only. All discussion focuses on crime prevention, security awareness, and risk mitigation. Have a fantastic day, be safe, and join us in the next security discussion.